Okay, my name is Bob Spitzer, and I lived in Buffalo, New York, and I was drafted in 1942. No, I'm sorry, 43. I'll tell you what happened. I was working at WWII Robbins, and we were making self-sealing gas tanks for the airplanes. So I promised my parents that I would never enlist into the service. So I didn't, but I did get my deferment, which I could have got from, because I'm working in a war factory. So that's why I was drafted into the service. And from there we went to Fort Niagara. And from the Fort Niagara we went to Camp Pickett, Virginia. And that was only a matter of a short time. And then we went to California for desert training. And we were in San Bernardino and Indio. We took all our desert training. So we figured we were going to go to Africa at that time. A short time later, after we take a lot of this training, we go back east again. And we go to the Bradford Naval Base in Virginia. And we start taking amphibious training. From the Bradford Naval Base, we went to Boston, and that's where we got on our ships to go overseas. And we landed at Glasgow, Scotland. And there was quite a thing. They had these Quonset huts that we were going to stay in, and I had a bed that was slats. And I'll tell you, it wasn't a great place to sleep, but we managed it. We weren't supposed to go out in the town, but a few of us did go out, and we got caught though coming back in. But they were pretty good about it. And from there we went to Swansea, Wales. In Swansea, Wales, we started doing a lot of maneuvers. In fact, on one of the maneuvers, one of the ships was sunk by a German submarine. I'll tell you, most of the training was pretty crappy. There was a lot of rainy weather, and we'd be in there all night long, and you'd be freezing to death practically. And most of the training was climbing nets, going off onto the landing crafts, and simulating, war, and how you were going to land, and to get you ready for that part of the invasion. So I don't know, I managed to live through that. And sometimes I think some of that was even worse than some of the things happened overseas. But anyways, that was about it. And then we went to London, and we went to the marshalling area to get ready to go. So, seeing we didn't leave on the day before, we had to stay overnight on these landing crafts, and then we, they had services, Mass, and I went to Mass and communion to get ready for the next day. And, I'll tell you, I wasn't really brave when I went in there, but there was nothing I could do but go. So, but I was very fortunate. I lived through it, and married a wonderful woman, and I was very happy after that. We knew they were getting us ready for invasion, but we had no idea really what it was. In fact, it really was supposed to be the 5th of June, and their weather was so bad that they decided they'd hold off to the 6th, and that's when we went in and started to go in it was dark when we started, and we had a lot of fireworks going on once we got close. As our landing craft was going in, the shells were hitting all around us. I mean, and it's splashing of water over the top of us. And we were on the LCT, and we had some ammunition that we were going to unload when we got in there. And I guess if we got hit, there wouldn't be much of us left. But we finally hit the beach. And you know the funny part of it is, I don't remember hitting the beach. I really don't. I mean, I don't know whether my mind went away from it or what, but I don't remember. But then I remember the next morning, we went down to meet our other guys that are coming in from different landing crafts. The landing craft that you see there, those guys really got the worst. Their landing craft was hit. And some of them were injured. They were taken back into England. And some of them were killed. Yeah. Well, the weather when we were coming in wasn't quite as bad as it was the day before. So we landed on Omaha Beach, which was a little tough one. Some of the other beaches, they didn't have too much trouble getting in, but Omaha was kind of tough. And like I say, there was bodies all over the place, and I don't know. I get sick every time I think of it, but anyways. Okay, the first day was a lot of work, like I say. We had to get things ready. They had to get the cemetery ready. They had to get the beach roads cut in so we could bring the supplies in. And then that was pretty much what we were doing on the first day. There's a lot of confusion, and of course we didn't do too much more that first day. Then as the troops advanced, and which would be the next day, then you had to start bringing ammunition and supplies and food, and they're setting up hospitals and getting everything ready. And prisoners had to build stockades for the prisoners, and I had to work to death. I had to guard prisoners for a while. Like I say, we went from one outfit to another, it seemed, to do different things. Yeah, the German officers were pretty strict, but even they calmed down after a while. And I remember one time that one of the German prisoners, he had some kind of a thing on his hand that didn't want to cure, so our doctors sliced it open and squeezed it off. And then one of the other guys had a problem, one of our boys, almost similar to what the German had, and they fooled around, squeezed it, and well, the German prisoners, his was healing up in a couple of days. The other guy, it took about 2 weeks before. So it shows if you slice it open, and that's like me. I've been sliced open a few times. I had a bypass surgery and an abdominal aneurysm repair. Well, you're talking about, what we felt safe. And of course we were getting some bombings, at night, but they didn't have many planes, so it wasn't. But I'll tell you one thing, when our planes went over, you could see them going over bombing, and you could see the same thing coming back. It was just like a rope, no end to it, so I wouldn't have want to have been on that end of it, although we had one of our guys, he only had a 50 caliber machine gun for the tripod, and he ended up shooting an airplane down at night, which we never thought he would. His name was Dick Weiser, and he was from Rochester, which he passed away already. So.
Did he get a plane? Did he get a plane?
He got a plane. I couldn't believe it. And, when you shoot a machine gun, and you keep it on, it just kept pushing him back. He was actually laying on his back with the machine gun on top of him when he could. But he was just one of these guys, tough. Him and a guy by the name of Alfred White. He was from Fulton, New York. And those guys were always competing. We used to have these GI stoves. They're about that high, like a small kitchen stove. So these guys, I bet you I can pile them higher than you can. And they start making tripods and pile and pile and pile to outdo each other. And it was really something. A real good friend that I've kept up with pretty much, he's from here, Ray Stefaniak. And he's from Sloan. And I talk to him all the time, and we've gone out socially, my wife and his wife. So, but he was on that, with that bunch there. So, like I said, the taking care of the bodies from the beach, we'd have to pick them up and put them in the truck, back of a truck. And of course, some of the bodies that fall apart. But anyways, we get them on. Then we take them up to where the grave was. They had bulldozers that would dig a big grave. And we had to lay them out. And then the burying detail would come out and clip the dog tags and take their personal stuff so they could send it home to their families. And then they just put them all in the same hole. And now you go over there and see all the crosses. You'd think they were all in individual graves. Some of them would be. If they died in the hospital, they would, but not on the beach. Myself, I stayed pretty much around the beach. What happened is we had all these breakwaters, that we brought in, plus some ships that we sunk. And at that time we were made MPs, and we did some road traffic stuff and some guard duty. And one of the jobs we had was to, we had a Frenchman with a little putt-putt motorboat, and we had to go to all these breakwaters and check them, make sure nobody was on them or in them or any enemy soldiers, anybody getting in there. So we would do that every night. You'd have to patrol that. And that was quite a thing. I mean, we had these breakwaters we carried right with us, and they had to open the valve and down they go, and to make it easier to unload ships, And then we had our trucks, a lot of those trucks, they had those double dual wheels. They had a track that they could put on it so they could drive in the sand without getting stuck. It was something, really something when you think. And now, oh my God, what they have now today compared to what we had, it's really something. Duties as the MPs were, we had to pick up all the prostitutes that we would run into, and they had to take them in and see if they had their slip to show that they were clean, and that they had their examinations when they were supposed to. So if they didn't, we'd have to take them into the French prison there, and then they would make sure they got taken care of there. I know one night I picked up this one girl that I was, we did. There was a few of us out, and picked her up, and she started crying, and I asked her if I felt bad. And this Tommy Vlasic that did all these paintings, he spoke French, and he talked to her and found out that she was had a baby at home with nobody watched. So we told her if she promised that she'd go and get an inspection, and that we would recheck on her, that we'd let her go home and watch her baby, because we weren't the bad guys. we were in some of the towns around there when we were doing this patrolling. And of course, you'll probably see pictures in France that a lot of these prostitutes that collaborated with Germans, they had their hair removed. So when you see a lot of bald-headed women, you knew what was going on. So, but as far as sex was concerned, it was easy enough to get over there, which I want to admit that I never did over there. I really didn't. I don't know if I was just afraid of disease or whether I was a good guy and wanted to save it from my wife. We were on a farm, and they had the barn, the second floor. That's where most of them stayed. I stayed in a tent in the motor pool, and I always drove a lot of vehicles that they had and drove a lot of the officers around. That's probably because of my arm. They had pitied me for a lot of the bad, heavy jobs. So anyways, they do some of the dumb things, I know. But we had these little stoves, you know, that burn wood and coal and stuff like that. But in the motor pool, we fixed a carburetor, and we got oil, and we run it through the carburetor into the stove, which had a thing that held the grates into there. So we had an oil stove, so we kept nice and warm in there anyways, probably more than the guys that were up in the barn. But we had this one guy, his name was Parker, and he was a pretty intelligent guy, but he liked to booze a lot. And over there we had concrete slabs for the floor, and Parker always had a hole dug underneath and kept his booze in there so nobody could find it. Well, when we were in the village, we moved up to Verdun from the beach, and I stayed in like a chalet. I had a room in a chalet, and in the middle of the street we had a sort of, I guess they used it for a sort of a movie theater and that, and we used it for a dance hall and a bar room. And the German prisoners used to tend bar, keep the place going, and they also did our cooking. We had a 24-hour kitchen, and those Germans used to take this powdered milk and make whipped cream out of it, all kinds of fancy desserts that we had. And we could go in there 24 hours of the day and get something if we wanted to. And of course, to take a shower, they had public showers over there. And I mean, you could be sitting in one shower and talking to a girl and one next to you because you could see each other's heads, you know. And all that foam used to go out on this river, which should be 10 feet high with foam on top of the water. So I don't imagine that was too good to drink. So then we were in this one community there, and we were walking down the street, and they throw their dirty water out of the windows to the street, so we almost got hit with that. But I don't know if it was on purpose, but you said something about, you know, how the French treated us. Most of them treated us pretty good. Of course, a lot of the men, the girls that used to come that maybe shouldn't have come to our dances and stuff like that, and their husbands, which I don't blame them, would be a little PO, come after them, and then they'd be mad at us, but they should have been mad at their wives rather than us. I mean, we didn't try to take them away from them. When we were staying in the village, a lot of the French girls would come over and they talked to us, and so many of them can speak English. I guess they take it up in school. And these are girls that were Of course, we say young, we were only 19 ourselves, so maybe these girls were maybe 17, 16, something like that. Real nice. We were invited to dinner at their house, which we went, two of us, and what they had was rabbit. They have big rabbits over there, very, very big, and very good the way they cook it. And of course, that was in Wales, and in France too. But most of them spoke English because I couldn't talk French. Probably never would learn it, but I wasn't too good in school. When we went into Verdun, they had a movie theater there, which for a while they gave me the job to get the thing ready because I did run some movies on the beach, and so I got the thing ready, and I was in town one night, and I run into a friend of mine from lived a couple streets away from me in Buffalo, and so we had a little fun together before they had to leave. But he was a good guy, and so the movie theater, we start showing movies there, and of course we let the French people come in too, which was kind of nice. They liked that because we were showing pretty good movies, pretty popular movies in there. So. And then I had to go back to my outfit again. So I did a lot of jobs away from my outfit. In fact, in California, I was in a day room out there and bringing girls from Hollywood and put on shows for, and a friend, one of the friends that I met he was Ann Rutherford's brother-in-law. She was a movie actress at that time, and she let us use her cottage up at Lake Arrowhead. So I got up there a few weekends when I was out there. You forget these things, and then you start thinking about it, things that happened, and you start to remember them. Well, also when we were in Verdun, we did a lot of looking around, and I'll tell you, it was funny, but they were still plowing fields with oxen, and if he was rich, he had one of our old metal cleated tractors, and it was interesting to see how they still were way behind us in farming, and of course a lot of other things like sewage and that. So we used to go to a lot of dances in these towns, and of course that was at the time we were doing some MP duty, and you know how you get in mischief and do things like that. So a couple times when we were in there, you'd have a few drinks, and we used to steal the vehicles, some officers' vehicles, and we'd drive back to camp with them, and then we'd tell our officers they were in parking spaces where they shouldn't have been, pick them up. And the funny part of it is half of them never come back for the stuff. We had a fire engine and everything else that we picked up, and nobody ever come back to get it. So well, when the Germans surrendered, and it was wonderful. I mean, people were hugging us and kissing us. The Frenchmen were so happy that it was over, and of course we were too. And we all had too many drinks, I guess, throughout the night. But it was nice. We had a hall that we were in. It was on the second floor, and we start getting lit up, and then somebody called the MPs again because we were making too much noise or something. So they start climbing out of the windows on the drain pipes. Jeez, I got down, and then the pipes pulled away, and some of them went down there. Okay. After the surrender, and we were getting ready that we could go home, some of the guys, we were expected to go to Korea. That's what we figured we were going to go anyway. That we were ready for it. But so happened they called that off at the last minute. And then some of the guys in our outfit, they didn't go home. They were offered officers, second lieutenants and stuff if they would stay and help train some of the ones that are coming over. But I just wanted to get home. So, and then when we were getting ready to go home, I got hepatitis. I spent a few months in the hospital. And my boys, they all got home at Christmas, and I didn't get home until February. So, anyways, that was kind of bad. So we got on the ship after I got out of the hospital, headed home, which was nice. We pulled into New York Harbor. There's a great big sign lit up, Spitzer. So I said to the guy, look at that. I got a welcome home. Of course, it was a Spitzer Ford agency or something like that. And there's quite a few Spitzers in New York. So anyways, then when I pulled into the station in Buffalo, my mother and father were sitting there waiting, and they had no idea I was coming home. I never told them I was coming home because I wanted to go to a hotel and get cleaned up and look real nice for them. Here I look like a slob. So anyways, and my mother says, oh, there's Bob. And my father said, no, that ain't him. Yes, it is. It shows the mother, she knows her son when she sees it. And of course, then I had lost a lot of hair. Didn't have the same that I had before that. So, that's about my life. I went back to work at Robin's.